go looking at those apps. They promise everything and don't deliver. Okay, as John says, we're in the final chapter, chapter 5 of 1 John. And when I think of John's writings, I usually think about love. I don't know if you do the same. I think it's a key emphasis for him. And apparently, although I wasn't here last week, Tom mentioned this in chapter 4, which he covered, when he said that chapter 4 mentions love 27 times alone. So that's what I tend to think of with John. He's the guy who talks about love a lot. So yeah, he would definitely agree with the Beatles, wouldn't he? All you need is. But his definition of love, I think, would have been very different. It definitely is very different. But he emphasises God's love first and foremost, not about our love. But John's most consistent theme is actually not about love. When you look across his writings, it's his assertion that Jesus is the Son of God. And this is what we find here, of course, in chapter 5, as John brings his epistle to a close. And he does this for one key reason, so that we will believe. That's what he says. I don't know if you pick that up. And this got me thinking a lot about belief. When you start looking into belief, it's a simple word, but it's quite an interesting subject. At its most basic level, belief is how we make sense of the world around us. So we can understand the world and how we fit into it. In that sense, belief, of course, is very important, but it's also very powerful because it shapes how we think and subsequently what we choose to do. So, what we believe is fundamental to who we are. And that's an individual thing. We're all unique in that. From a very young age, each of us learns to trust in our experiences. And our brains start to put all this information together. And our brains start to build a picture of our surroundings and how we relate to them. Interestingly, our brains are very good at evaluating and extrapolating information. Based on our experiences, our brains automatically fill in gaps in our understanding. Our brains make judgments and assumptions to create our own unique perspective. All this is about belief. Anyway, before we get deeper into this passage this morning, I thought I would like to try something practical. Now, I don't normally do this, okay, so bear with me. This is a first for me. But I thought something visual might help us to try and consider belief. All I've got here is a simple block of wood, and recognise one of these? A simple Bic biro. Oh, I used to use those at school. That's how long they've been around. And I have a knife and a fork here. And I have in my pocket one of these, which you will all be familiar with as well. Everyone recognise this? A matchstick. Now then, who believes that I can balance this knife and this fork on the top of this Bic pen by using this matchstick?
Yeah, I think you can.
There's a few yeses.
Yeah.
By a show of hands, who thinks I can do it? Okay, and who thinks I can't? Okay, so a few more that say I can't. That's interesting. Okay, right, here we go. Who's got a drum roll? A knife and a fork and a match. Now, This relies on my hands being steady. You might be right, actually, Stu. Yeah.
Enter Tommy Cooper.
Please do come and have a closer look if you want to. I remember the first time I saw this. I was probably pretty young. Do you want to come and have a look? Come and have a look. Don't touch it.
Have a look, Bailey. It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
And I remember thinking, the guy who did this demonstrated this to me. And I'm thinking, how has he done that? That's not possible. That's just the end of the matchstick on it. He's got some kind of special glue that I can't see, and he activated it instantly, and it's a really strong glue. That was the only thing that would go through my mind, because I thought, that can't be possible. Because it just seemed to defy everything that I'd learned about in my experiences and the things that I believed. Anyway, I'll leave it there. So, hopefully that helps you. Gives you an idea about belief. You know? And let's get into this passage a bit more then, because John is making some really major statements about belief. He says in verse 1, everyone who believes in Jesus as the Christ is born of God. And he says, goes on to say in verse 4, everyone born of God overcomes the world. I don't know what you think about those two statements, because John is making it very clear that belief is the critical element. And of course, belief is directly linked to faith. They're not exactly the same, however, because belief is a precursor to faith. Before you can have faith, you need to believe. Faith is defined in the dictionary, I looked up it in anyway, the complete trust or confidence in someone or something. And that's different to belief. So you need to have belief before you can have faith. And did you notice that in the passage, at no point does John say that it's anything to do with us? That overcoming, being an overcomer and overcoming the world has nothing to do with us directly. And I think that's an important point, because belief and faith have nothing to do with our abilities. It's not even about our ability to love. We can't earn anything. We know we can't earn our salvation, don't we? We can't earn anything. It's all about what we choose to do. It's not about our ability at all. It's simply about choice, which is a complete leveller. Because we all have the same ability to choose, don't we? We'll have different abilities in different things, for sure. But choice is completely level. It's a level playing field. We can all make the same choice. And John makes it clear that the consequences of our belief and faith in Jesus are revolutionary. I remember how that was for me. Do you remember how it was for you when you first started to believe? And how that can change, fundamentally change your life? You know, our lives can be dramatically changed when we choose faith in Jesus. And the New Testament makes it clear that they will. Our lives will dramatically change when we choose faith in Jesus. Why? Because it allows God's perspective to influence our perspective. And that has to be good for us, right? And in our passage this morning, John says, this is the victory that has overcome the world. Our faith. And in verse 5, who is it that overcomes the world? Question mark. Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. So it is this faith that brings victory. victory over the world. And of course that's great news for us. Firstly, because it's not dependent on us. And secondly, because the world can't be trusted or relied on. You know, it seems to me that the world is more messed up than ever. And maybe every generation has this perspective, I don't know, but the world seems to be changing so rapidly before our very eyes. So John's words for me are so reassuring. We do not need to fear the world because through our belief and faith in Jesus, we are overcomers. What exactly does that mean? Well, I think that's a big question, but I'm going to try and explain it. Initially, when we're born into this world through no choice of our own. And as a consequence, we are subject to it. And we are influenced by it. And we become conditioned by it, don't we? And that's how we start life. And the Bible tells us that the ways of the world are opposed to the ways of God. Its values, its priorities and attitudes are fundamentally different to God's. And of course this can have a certain allure for us as human beings because of our weakness, our propensity to sin, our human condition, which of course, as I said, we're born into. And we can find ourselves in this endless battle against sin. But our faith in Jesus sets us free from this. The conditioning that we have in this world, that we are born into, that we have no choice about in the first place, we can be free from it. And often, we don't even see it, do we? We just get lost in it and we can't see it for what it is until our eyes are opened. And this is what Jesus means when he says that he has overcome the world. We are no longer bound by our worldly existence and our human condition. And this should fundamentally change our perspective. But it's not just our perspective. John tells us that this is a practical, on-the-ground reality as well. A day-to-day victory over the things that weigh so heavily upon us. And not just victory over sin. The truth here is that overcoming the world is absolute. God's provision for us in this respect is not a half measure, it's complete. It's 100%. John tells us that even our greatest enemy, death itself, has been overcome. This is John's other key message. He says in verse 13, I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, so that you may know that you have eternal life. Wow, that's a different perspective, isn't it? How then should we live our lives? Well, if we truly believe, then surely this faith should give us a fundamentally different perspective. Because if we do truly believe, then it must do. Or else it isn't really faith at all. I find James, the book of James, to be really helpful here, because James warns us in chapter 2 that faith without deeds is dead. And our deeds complete our faith. In other words, faith is not faith if we don't back it up. If it's not demonstrated through the outworking in our lives. As John says here in verse 3, and Jesus said in John 14, he said, if you love me, you will keep my commands. In other words, we will do what he teaches us to do. But John also says here that God's commands are not burdensome. So, if we are living right, then we should experience peace too. Otherwise, it's too much to handle. Because God gives us peace at the same time. How does this work? Well, remember, it's not about us. It's about Jesus. He is the overcomer. We are on the back of him. That's how it works. He is the one that empowers us. And our faith is defined and embodied by Jesus. So we only need to concentrate on belief, nothing else. Because everything else will flow from that genuine belief and faith, if it's genuine. So if we truly believe, then we will love him and we will put our faith in him. And if we have faith in him, then our lives will reflect him. And through this faith, truly we are able to then overcome the world, and consequently we will know peace too. So, to finish, can I encourage us all today to believe and to trust in Jesus? Because